Hi VC. So we're back to part 4 of the flea market days. And on this one I'm talking a little bit about sort of like the people, the fun we used to have there, as well as just digging for records. There's a group of us, we got to know each other over time, maybe about 7 or 8 of us in the group, and we would meet every Sunday after we finished digging through records and compare with one another what we bought, and sometimes we discovered new music that way, and it was a lot of fun. But so I thought I'd just talk a little bit about that. And so one of the things, like I said, we were always joking around and things like that, and doing dumb things every so often. And sometimes we would actually even tease some of the vendors or whatever. But there was one instance where I came up to a table, and a friend of mine who was a very serious collector, and he was a serious negotiator, always trying to beat the vendor down. And he was in a discussion, I guess you would call it, with the vendor. The vendor was asking $30 for the album, and my friend was offering 25, and neither of them would budge. And this was the album that they were after. I had never heard of this group, no idea what it was. So now I think it's like an Italian psych band. So the vendor was saying, no, wait, $30, that's it. I'm not budging one GGGD cent on this or whatever. And the guy said, come on, 25. Take 25. So finally, I said, hell with it. I'll buy it. Here's your $30. I took the album. Then I turned to my friend because I knew he really wanted it. And I said, if you want this album, it's now going to cost you $40. So that would piss him off, and that's the kind of stuff we were doing all the time. So back in the early days there, once I started really getting into collecting, there were certain records I was really after. One of the records I was really after, and I was surprised, it was going for crazy money on eBay, and you never see it in the wild. And that was Wanda Jackson's first album. Finally, on eBay, I got a copy. I think it was for sale. I'm not sure if for sale or bid, but I got it at a very reasonable price, and I still had to pay shipping and all that. Get the record, and so that Sunday I go to the flea market. Go to my friend's, the one who I bought that last album off of, the vendor there, and sure enough, in his bin, he has that album. And I was thinking to myself, God, it's the only time I've ever seen this in the wild, and it's the weekend after I went and bought it on eBay. Anyway, I said, well, that's life. Well, the following weekend, record came up, because there was a time where I was really seriously into collecting surf music. I wanted everything surf. And there's one record that was a little bit difficult to get at the time, was this one. New Dimensions, Surf and Bongos, great surf album. So it came on eBay, I paid up for it. I got it. Go to the flea market that Sunday, same vendor, start flipping through what he's got new, and sure enough, there it is, in his box, mint condition, half the price I paid for it. And I'm thinking, well, my God, that's 2 weeks in a row. God, I can't believe that. Oh well. So that weekend, I went back, and there was and I can't remember now which one it was. I think it was a Psych or a Garage 60s band. I got it on eBay. I won the auction, paid up for it. Sure enough, that weekend, went back to the flea market, go back to the same vendor's table, start flipping through, and there's the record at about half of what I paid for it. And I just lost it. I'm there, I just blurted out, every effing time I come to your effing table, you got these effing records that I just effing bought on effing eBay for effing twice the money. I can't effing believe this. This is driving me effing nuts. And everybody turns and just stares at me wondering, what in the hell is the wrong with him? You know, 3 weeks in a row, 3 rare albums pop up in his collection. But interesting, just for any guys, a little bit of... so here's that Surfing Bongos. Not too many people know that one. And here's Surfer Girl by the Sentinels, which a lot of people know. Look at the pictures. Different bands on different labels, and it's like the picture, they're not identical. It's like it's been flipped 180 degrees, but it's slightly different. So it's obviously the same photo session with the same models. It's interesting. It winds up different labels, different bands. So let's see, what's another good story header? Oh yeah. I guess all you guys that go to vinyl shows or at flea markets, you'll know this one. I always go up to a table and I'll start on the left hand side and I'll work from left to right. And then go dig, 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 dig. And then knowing that when I get to the end, I move over to the next one to my right, dig, 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 move over to the right, dig, 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 dig. And then what absolutely drives me nuts, dig, 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 and someone comes up on my right hand side, starts digging through the records. Now I'm going, oh my God, what's in there? What am I missing if he grabs it? And you can't help but start looking at the records that the other guy's digging through. And I'm digging through one day, and some kid, couldn't be more than 17, 18 years old, he comes up and he's beside me and he starts going through the box that I'm about to go through next. And he stops at a record. And I look at it, what's he got? What's he looking at? And it was a record that I've wanted for years. And you guys know Jungle Fever. It's by the band, I don't know how to pronounce their name, Chakakais, something like that. And they put out another record, which is pretty rare. You don't see it very much. And the kid pulls it out. And I'm thinking to myself, Jesus Christ, put that back. Put that back. You don't know what that record is. You're way too young to know this band. And the kid says to the vendor, is this record any good? And it was priced at $40. And I thought, that's too expensive for a young kid like you. The vendor goes, oh, that's a good album. Lots of breaks and beats on it. Really good. And the kid goes, oh, okay. I'll buy it. I'm Jesus Christ. Ah. And I never saw that one in the wild again. But what can you do? And you just gotta suck it up, buttercup, and move on to the next box. So, a lot of times, I would meet the people from the flea market at the vinyl shows. The vinyl shows ran during the winter. And in the summer, no vinyl shows, so all the vendors were at the flea market. One of my friends who used to be, we'd be at the flea market, and then in the winter, we're going doing some vinyl shows. I knew he had a very good sound system. It was based on Macintosh monoblocks. So right away, right there, that's big bucks. So every time I go to the vinyl show, I would see him at someone's booth, looking at records, trying to beat the price down. And I would walk up behind him and shout in a loud voice so that the vendor could hear, wow, those records are going to sound really good on your Macintosh monoblock system. And he'd always turn to me and go, Jesus Christ, I'm trying to beat the price down. Will you shut up? But then he would just give it right back to me. I'd be just staring at some records, just hoping that while I stare at them, the vendor would sort of lower the price to encourage me to buy them. And he'd come up and go, why are you hesitating? If I had your money, I'd burn mine. And so on. This kind of stuff would just go on between us and the other guys that hanging out at the vinyl show. So we had lots of fun doing stuff like that. But I want to talk about two really big fails. In the early days, once I started spending a little bit of money on records, I knew everybody was after psychedelic, and I was saying, well, what is psychedelic to you? I don't know psychedelic. To me, psychedelic is Donovan, maybe some sort of Superman, something like that. And nobody would really, give me an answer, nothing. So I was left the flea market early one Sunday morning. I came out and I'm the only person there. Like everybody else is still inside, still digging. And a white van pulls up, and the guy gets out. I know him, I've seen him before. He is a vendor, he comes and goes. And he pulls up right beside me, and he slides open the side door, and he says to me, I've got a van full of psych records. I'm going to sell them all for $2 today. I know a lot of them are worth more than $2, but I don't care. And I said to him, well, what are psych records? What do you consider psych records? And he didn't answer. He started pulling the boxes out, and he was pulling the outer sleeves off every record, because at $2, he wasn't going to allow the outer sleeves to go with it. I started thumbing through the records, and I didn't recognize any of the bands. And this is early days for me in the record. Like back then, I didn't know who Ultimate Spinach was, or H.P. Lovecraft, or any of that. Never heard of them, didn't know who they were. So I'm looking at all these, I have no idea. So I decide I'll pull one purely at random, give them $2, go home and see. So the one I pulled purely at random was this one here, Dewey Martin and the Medicine Ball. I think this was a guy who was originally an Iron Butterfly. And this is what it looks like on the inside. So that's the one I randomly pulled for $2. So I've been thinking of that for the rest of my life. Here's a guy that pulled up in a van, with a van full of psych records, $2 each. I'm the only person there, and I buy one record. If that were to happen today, I would have said to him, don't bother unpacking the boxes. Don't bother pulling off the outer sleeve. Drive the van up to my truck, and we'll just throw it all in my truck, and we'll count the records. We'll come to some price on the outer sleeves, and that's it. So he must have had like 300 psych records there, and I ended up buying one. Unbelievable. But I didn't know any better at the time. Another huge fail for me was back when records were just starting to reappear in the record stores. Just starting to trickle in. Still mostly all CDs. I walk into a record store that was by the office where I worked. And as soon as I walk in, there was a wall right by the front door filled with records. And all the records were sort of audiophile. And I started looking at them. Here's an example, was one here, Metallica. And this is Half Speed Master from Mobile Fidelity, 45 RPM from the original analog master tapes, 2-disc set. So that's like an example of one there. And another one was Stevie Nicks, I guess the Half Speed Master, 45 RPM, 180 gram, multiple discs. I'm looking at this, the whole wall. Every record was priced at $2.99. So you had a wall of MoFi at $2.99 each. I look at all these records and I go, well, I don't like these bands. I don't really care that much for them. So I'll just buy these two because they're just cheap. I'll spend two records, $6 for audiophile. And it dawned on me, not like a couple hours later, but like 3 days later, I went, what in the hell did I do? I should have taken every record off of that wall, bought them, and then just take them to the flea market, and I could easily have sold them for $10 each, if not more, and made money, and probably keep at least one copy of each one. So I can't believe I walked past a wall of MoFi at $3 each and just bought two. That is one of the stupidest moves I ever made. Anyway, all good things come to an end, and eventually the land that the flea market was on was sold to a developer. And I remember going there the very last day, the last Sunday. The place was almost empty. All the vendors had already packed up and moved. All the stalls had been taken down. Great big empty. All that was there was the guy who ran it and two other vinyl vendors who were just packing up some stuff. And I think there was one other customer. It was me and one other guy just who was one of the 8 that was always there every Sunday for the last 10 years. And you couldn't have had a more depressed environment. So sad that our flea market was gone, all the cheap vinyl was gone. I walked out in the parking lot, so I was just drove that day, I was just gonna head to the car, and the van pulls up, a guy gets out, and I could tell he's a vendor, I didn't really know him, and he starts setting up a table, and I said, "Why are you setting up a table? The flea market is closed. There's nobody here." And he goes, "Well, I'll set up for a couple hours and just see what happens." So he starts putting boxes of records on the table. And I said to him, "Do you have a fresh box, a box that nobody's gone through yet?" And he goes, "I sure do. Here, I put this one together last night for the flea market today." So I thumbed through, and this was the very last record I bought at the flea market. I think this is on the red election label. So that's it from Julie London, Lady Six to the Stooges. About 10 years of vinyl purchasing. That'd have been at least 1,000 records between those two, probably more. Lost count. But that was it, and so the flea market was closed. Interesting, when I was preparing to make this video, I realized I never had any photographs of the flea market, never took a picture. The other interesting thing is that flea market sold everything, including the kitchen sink. You name it, they had it. Clothing, furniture, jewelry, books, electronics, everything you could think of. And in the 10 years I went there, other than vinyl records and a handful of CDs, the only thing I ever bought there was 3 t-shirts. So, if you've noticed, the t-shirts were changing. The first one I wore, Rat Fink. This is Ed Big Daddy Roth from the surf and drag scene, West Coast in the 60s. So that is Rat Fink, but I know him better as Surf Fink. That's these collectible surf records. I think it was always at Columbia or Capitol, which came with the bonus 45. Boy, it was tough getting these babies. Pay up for it too. The other one I bought, our t-shirt, was Oingo Boingo. So we wore that in the 3rd video. Bought that at the flea market. Or big Oingo Boingo fan. Bought lots of Oingo Boingo at the flea market. For some reason, these weren't cheap. They're usually priced around $10. And Killing Joke. No, I did not buy any Killing Joke at the flea market. I bought these in the store when they came out, like here. So I bought this the week it came out. That's their first album. This would be their first press, Canadian press. So that's it. Those just touched on a few of the stories from the flea market over maybe a 10-year period, give or take a year or so. I really missed that place. The prices were great. Anyway, thanks for watching. I don't know if anybody's going to watch all 4 videos. Probably If you smoke a few joints, you might be able to get through it. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.